Why Leonor's boyfriend is a ghost. A cold morning light settles over Madrid, pale and exacting, the kind that reveals architecture before it reveals people. Stone facades hold their breath. Flags hang still. Inside these walls, history is not remembered, it is maintained. That absence is the first signal. And it is deliberate, because the story of Princess Leonor is not a story about romance. It is a story about containment. In monarchies that survive the modern age, nothing private is ever merely personal. Every detail is assessed for weight, for consequence, for how it might bend the line of succession even slightly out of shape. The institution does not ask whether something is true. It asks whether something is useful, or dangerous. And so the figure people search for does not appear. No photographs, no name, no acknowledgement that would allow curiosity to harden into expectation. This is not denial, it is preemption. By the second minute, the misunderstanding is already in place. Many assume that invisibility means insignificance. That if a relationship mattered, it would surface naturally, leak inevitably, announce itself in glances and gestures caught by cameras trained for exactly that purpose. But royal systems do not work on inevitability. They work on timing. The first real question is not who this person might be. It is why the institution has chosen to leave the space empty. Because absence can be curated just as carefully as presence. 5 minutes in, the silence repeats itself. And this time, it lands differently. The bridge becomes clear. A visible partner creates a narrative. A narrative invites alignment. Alignment produces pressure, public, political, international. Once a figure is named, the institution must either absorb them or reject them. Both paths carry cost, so the system pauses the story before it begins. This is the living thread of continuity. Not romance postponed, but definition deferred. At 8 minutes, the deeper mystery takes shape. There are protocols for appearances, for education, for military formation. There are manuals for speech, for posture, for symbolic restraint. Yet there is no written rule that forbids affection. What exists instead is custom, and custom is stronger than law. Custom understands that emotional clarity can weaken structural ambiguity. The institution survives by remaining larger than the individuals who pass through it. To allow a private relationship to become visible too early would narrow that scale. It would humanize before the system is ready. And readiness is everything. By the midpoint, the strain becomes perceptible. A future head of state is expected to embody stability, to reassure allies and observers who look to the crown not for sentiment but for predictability. In United States, the interest is analytical, a question of continuity and diplomatic optics. In the United Kingdom, it is instinctive, shaped by centuries of managing the same tension between private life and public role. In Canada and Australia, distance sharpens the focus. What matters is not the individual detail, but what it signals about institutional discipline. In Germany, the lens is constitutional, measuring how symbols endure in modern governance. At 14 minutes, the point of no return approaches quietly. The public does not notice it when it happens. There is no announcement, no declaration. It is simply the moment when visibility, once withheld, can no longer be introduced without consequence. From that point on, every revelation would feel late. Every confirmation would feel reactive. So the system holds the line. This is not about protecting a person from scrutiny. It is about protecting the crown from definition. By 19 minutes, the future threat is no longer speculative. It is structural. A visible partner would invite questions about influence, about loyalty, about where personal counsel ends and institutional authority begins. Even the perception of such overlap can erode trust. Stability depends on clarity of role. And clarity requires restraint. In the final moments, the silence returns one last time. Not as a denial of humanity, but as a statement of priority. Duty outweighs desire. Survival of the institution remains the ultimate prize. He is not absent because he is unimportant. He is absent because the crown cannot afford definition. The light outside has shifted now. The stone still holds. The flags still wait. And somewhere beyond the frame, a future remains deliberately unresolved, standing at the edge of history, not yet decided.